Welcome to our second and much shorter lecture on the natural law. I'm going to do this short lecture because a number of the systems that we've studied in this class really are based on the idea that there is a natural inborn structure in the universe. And that morality, or those who have studied morality, have come to recognize that structure. In other words, it's the belief that there's a moral order in the universe, much like there is gravity, and that Sir Isaac Newton came to describe that gravity, and that there is a formula for that gravity. He didn't make up gravity and then suddenly everything started sticking to the earth. No, gravity pre-existed Sir Isaac Newton's description of it. He was simply coming to recognize and describe it in great detail, in mathematical detail, what was already existing. This force of gravity that drew everything towards the earth. In a similar way, natural law moralists believe that the moral order pre-exists our reflection on it, and that we're coming to discover what that proper ethical order to the universe is. It's the belief that a moral order exists independently of human creative intervention. Therefore, ethics is not understood as a product of human culture, but is rather something human beings discover as though it were a pre-existing order. This is very different than most of us have come to think of ethics in our culture. In our culture, and I'm going back to an illustration that I used very early in the class, we have this very Jerry Springer version of ethics that most of us carry with us, that you make up your own ethics, and you have an idea of what's right and wrong, and I have an idea of what's right and wrong, and we all kind of make it up. And Kant came up with his theory and he just made it up, and that John Stuart Mill made up his theory of utilitarianism, and Aristotle made up his theories. However, there's another way of looking at this, and those who believe in the natural law, like Kant, believed that the theories they were coming up with really were more like the theories of Sir Isaac Newton. They were observing a moral order and simply describing what they had observed, rather than this was something that was coming off the top of their head, in a creative moment. The mode of reasoning analogy, the physical sciences. The natural law truly believes that morality is like a science. It's describing a world that already exists, a moral order that has already been established long in the past, possibly with the creation of the universe. You don't have to be religious to believe in the natural law. There are secular or atheistic natural lawyers, people who believe in the natural law and yet don't believe in a God or believe in some kind of spiritual realm that was the creative force behind the universe. So for instance, one version of the natural law would be people who believe that morality or ethics are more or less keyed in or structured into our genetic makeup. It's part of the genetic code, in other words. There are people who believe that ethics and good behavior are things that have been coded into our DNA, and that ethics is nothing more than that. And you don't have to believe in a God to believe that. The natural law believes that the natural order is purposeful. It was initially created for a certain purpose. It is ordered towards achieving a certain purposeful end. It isn't just random or chaotic events, but that there is some rational, reasonable purpose that governs and informs it, that governs and informs its creation and its ultimate end. Because of that, then, what is natural is ultimately the same thing as what is good. Things which are deemed natural are good because they are fulfilling at some level their intended purpose, the one that they were created for and the one that they are ordered towards. Of course, that means what is unnatural is evil because they are frustrating their intended design or purpose. Ultimately, human morality and all personal, interpersonal, and social behaviors are structured according to a natural order that is governed by natural laws that set parameters on human behaviors. That is really the basic element and the basic thrust of the natural law. And I want to present this because a number of the theories that you learn in any ethics class, and a number of the theories we cover in this class, really have this bias, this understanding of themselves, which is usually very, very different than our very relativistic, pluralistic understanding of how concepts come to be. We have a very historical, cultural understanding of how concepts come to be, and we don't think that the ethical concepts are anything more than really just a historical, cultural byproduct of a certain era, of a certain time, of a certain individual or group of individuals who were very insightful, maybe, but nevertheless, it was a group of Buddhist monks back in the 5th century, 4th century BCE who came up with the Eightfold Path. And the Eightfold Path isn't an insight into the way the universe functions, or into the way all human persons function. It's just, what a bunch of monks came up with in the 5th century BCE. And isn't that nice? Isn't that insightful? If I get something out of it, that's good. That's how most of us come into this topic. But a number of the theories and a number of the individuals who represent those theories would disagree fundamentally with that. That what they're doing is much more of a science and is, discovering something very essentially true about the human person, human society, and about the universe as a whole. Anyway, that's the natural law. Enjoy the rest of the week. See you next week.